Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me as always. Our 8-mini pod series continues tonight. We are going to break down and discuss every single team from the NFC West, team by team, pick by pick, share our favorite picks, our value picks, our questionable picks, talk about each team overall, what I thought about their draft hauls from the 2024 NFL Draft. I'll list my favorite drafts 1 to 4 for the NFC teams as well. If you have missed any of the 3 previous pods, we started with the NFC East. We followed that up with the NFC North. Then the most recent episode was the NFC South. We roll on today with the NFC West before we turn to talk about the AFC division by division as well. As I've mentioned before, we do not quickly turn the page here at Saturday, Sunday. There is so much to break down. We prep for the draft for a whole year here. The pre-draft process lasts months, and then the post-draft process continues to last months here as we look at every single angle from the team perspective, from the prospect perspective, from fantasy or dynasty perspective. A lot to break down, and we cover it here wire to wire. So let's jump right in and talk about the Arizona Cardinals. First round pick 4 overall. They stayed put. They drafted Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. The end of round 1 from that trade with Houston last year. At pick 27, they took Missouri defensive lineman Darius Robinson. At pick 43, in the second round, they took Rutgers cornerback Max Melton. In the third round, pick 66 overall, they took Florida State running back Trey Benson. Also in the third round, at pick 71 overall, they took Illinois offensive guard Isaiah Adams. Another third round pick 82 overall, they took Illinois tight end Tip Ryman. One more pick in the third round. At pick 90, they took Boston College cornerback Elijah Jones. Early in the fourth round, at pick 104, they took Texas Tech safety Dadrian Taylor Demerson. In the fifth round, they had a pair of selections at 138 and 162. They took Clemson edge Xavier Thomas and then Texas offensive tackle Christian Jones. In the sixth round at 191, they took out of Alabama Birmingham wide receiver Tajon Palmer. And then in the seventh round, 226, they ended their draft with Miami of University defensive back Jaden Davis. Favorite picks that they did, I love a lot what they did. Trey Benson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Max Melton are all picks. I all think they went at the appropriate value, so none of them are value picks. I thought Trey Benson should have went early third round. He went early third round. I thought Marvin Harrison was the best non-quarterback in this draft class. They didn't take the bait. They didn't trade out. They selected him with the fourth pick. And Max Melton was one of my favorite round 2 cornerbacks. They took him at 43, so they took him pretty early in the second round. I think those guys, Harrison, immediate starter. Max Melton, immediate starter. Trey Benson, committee this year with James Conner, and then eventually he'll lead that back share for moving forward after James Conner moves on. Overall, I really liked what the Cardinals did. My value pick for them was Christian Jones. Daniel Jeremiah had him as his 55th ranked player in the 2024 NFL Draft. They took him at 162. Now, I did think Daniel Jeremiah was a little higher than anyone else I had seen on him, but I thought he was a guy that was borderline late round 3 to somewhere in round 4. But even that would have put him to like somewhere between 100 and 135. So a lot to like about their draft. I really like the Elijah Jones pick. He's a immediate plug and play nickel corner. Texas Tech safety Dadrian Taylor Demerson, very versatile chess piece. He could have been on my favorite pick as well, but I stopped it at 3. But I love the versatility that Taylor Demerson brings to the table. So a lot to like about the Cardinals draft. My only questionable thing was Darius Robinson. It wasn't a guy that I thought should have went in round 1. I understand why. To me, he's that prototypical 5-tech defensive end in like a base 3-4. But he's going to be a guy that probably moves around that defensive line. I think they got to hope he kind of morphs himself into like a Cameron Hayward type player and out of Pittsburgh. You know, somebody who's versatile, who could kick inside in sub packages, rush from in there. He played defensive tackle in college. He played on the edge, but his body type is more of a tweener or a defensive tackle than a true edge. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how they utilize him. But overall, I really like what the Cardinals did. They had a fantastic draft. Lot to like about the Cardinals. If we move this on to the Los Angeles Rams, at pick 19 overall in round one, they took Florida State edge Jared Verse. At pick 39 in the second round, they made a huge trade up, 13 slots or 14 slots, and they gave up a second round pick next year to take Florida State defensive tackle Braden Fisk, teaming him with his former teammate Jared Verse. In the third round of pick 83, they took Michigan running back Blake Corum. Ended the third round at pick 99 overall. They took Miami of Florida Cameron Kinchins, the safety. In the fifth round, at pick 154, they took Washington State edge Brennan Jackson. In the sixth round, at 196 overall, they took Clemson defensive tackle Tyler Davis. A whole bunch of sixth-round picks. Later in the sixth round, at 209, they took Stanford kicker Josh Carty. At 213, they took Texas wide receiver Jordan Whittington. And lastly, in the sixth round, at 217, they took Arkansas offensive center Bew Limmer. In the seventh round, they took Kansas State offensive guard at 254, KT Levinston. My favorite picks, Jared Verse in round one. I thought he was one of the best 2 or 3 defensive prospects in this draft class. So for them to stay there at 19 and get Verse, really applaud that move there. They didn't move up there. But I think if Verse would have went at 8, it would have been a tad rich, but he was in the conversation with a couple other defensive players of being the best defensive player in this class. So I like the pick of Verse a lot. I like Cameron Kinchins. I understand the 40 time kind of brought him down, but very similar to Tyler Nubin. All Kinchins does is make plays. He's got great play recognition, great ball instincts, great ball skills. You know, when this whole pre-draft process started, most people had Kinchins as safety 1 or safety 2. He just barely sneaks in here, the top 100. So I like that player a lot. Value pick, Brennan Jackson in the 5th round. Some people thought he was more of like a late round 3, early round 4 guy. So for them to get him in the 5th round at pick 154 is probably a whole round of value right there. Questionable decision, and I hate to even talk about it because I really do like the player. Trading up the 13 slots or so in the round 2 at the expense of a future second round pick. Maybe Fisk gets taken, but was there other defensive tackles they could have pivoted to give up a future second round pick is a very aggressive move when we know how valuable second round picks are. So that was my one questionable decision, but I really like Braden Fisk. So that's the thing. Sometimes I'll question a move that a team made, but I really do like the player. That's the situation here. I really do like Braden Fisk. I just don't love giving up the second round pick in 2025 just to move up 13 slots to get him. It's not like they didn't have a pick in the second round and they traded like a 5th and a 2nd next year. They traded up. They had a second round pick just to move up to get Braden Fisk. It cost them a 2025 second. I thought it was a pretty aggressive move. I'm not sure I would have been able to do that and pull that off, even though I do like Braden Fisk a lot. I think Blake Corum comes in and he's another guy just like Kyren Williams. I think their styles are very similar. So if Kyren Williams gets hurt, I could see Blake Corum stepping right in and being prolific in that offense. Maybe they form a 1-2 duo. That really hasn't been the way of Sean McAvee, but it'd be interesting to kind of see how this plays out. I thought Tyler Davis in the 6th round out of Clemson, defensive tackle, was a good pick as well. Let's take this to the San Francisco 49ers. The end of first round at pick 31 overall, it took Florida wide receiver Ricky Pearsall. At pick 64, second round, they took Florida State cornerback Renardo Green. At pick 86, in the third round, they took Kansas offensive guard Dominic Pooney. In the 4th round, at pick 124, they took Wake Forest safety Malik Mustafa. At pick 129, Louisville running back Isaac Arendo. At pick 135, Arizona wide receiver Jacob Cowing. At 215 in the 6th round, they took USC offensive guard Jared Kingston. In the 7th round at 251, they took Florida State linebacker Tatum Batoon. Overall, the 49ers, I like some of the things they did. I really love the Ricky Pearsall pick. He was a guy that I thought was going to go late round 1 to early round 2. He ends up sneaking in there at the latter part of round 1. But I do think he's going to be a guy that whenever they move on from whether it's Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel, he's going to be a guy that steps right in and could be that another prolific wide receiver that steps in there and creates a lot of separation and is a guy that could really shine in that Shanahan scheme. whether it's next year or the year after, I think they're going to end up moving on from Deebo Samuel. So if that's the case, Ricky Pearsall is a guy that is really going to be another separator, very much like Brandon Ayuk. If they move on from Brandon Ayuk, then I think Pearsall steps right in and plays that role of Brandon Ayuk. He's got inside, outside versatility. So I really like the pick. I think he fits well. I just don't know what the immediate use is going to be there. That's going to be interesting. But he was my favorite pick. Another favorite pick of mine was Isaac Guerendo in the 4th round. This was a late riser in the pre-draft process, but he could be the perfect complement to Christian McCaffrey. He could be, I think, very similar to Elijah Mitchell. So if they don't want to give Elijah Mitchell a second contract, I think Isaac Guerendo could step right in and offer a lot of the same thing. He's got size. He's got the frame. He's got straight line explosiveness, burst. So he's a guy in that outside zone. You're going to get him on the outside, and he could be a home run if he gets an opening. So I like the Guerendo pick. My favorite value pick was Malik Mustafa in the 4th round. Some people thought he was one of the better day 3 safeties. I agreed with that. If he snuck in the latter part of round 3, I would not have been surprised. But they got him there, pick 124 in the 4th round. My questionable pick, and this kind of goes back to the previous conversation when I said I really liked the player in Brandon Fisk, but I didn't love the trade up. In this scenario, I really like Renardo Green, the player. He was one of my guys when I did my guy episode. My only question is whether or not he needed to be selected at pick 64. There were a lot of people, respected people in the industry, who didn't have him in their top 100. I had him in there, and then I took him out right the last minute because I was trying to, reading the tea leaves, it doesn't really seem like the league is very high in Renardo Green. But Lance Zierlein really liked him. A couple other really reputable people really liked him. But then on the flip side, some people like Dan Jeremiah didn't have him in his top 150. So there was very split opinions on Renardo Green. I did personally like him, but I thought maybe at pick 64, and maybe there were other teams that had a high grade on him, and that's why San Francisco pulled the trigger. But from what was out there, it did seem like that was maybe, a half a round to a round or even more, a little early for him. But that's hard to say because all it takes is one team. Obviously, San Francisco liked them. Obviously, some draft evaluators really liked them. It just wasn't a consensus when it came to Green. So maybe that was it. So that would be my only thing. Could they have gotten him a little bit later? But I do really like the player there. I like the Jacob Cowing pick in the 4th round. Again, not much of an opening now, but if they move on from one of them, Deebo or Ayuk, and Pearsall steps up to the number 2 job and plays more on the outside, I think that opens up the slot where Jacob Cowing could potentially be a very interesting player there as well. If we finish this off with the NFC West, and that's the Seattle Seahawks, in the 1st round, pick 16 overall, they took Texas defensive tackle Byron Murphy. In the 3rd round, at pick 81, they took UConn offensive guard Christian Haynes. In the 4th round, at pick 118, they took UTEP linebacker Tyrese Knight. In the 4th round, at pick 121, they took Michigan tight end A.J. Barner. In the 5th round, at pick 136, they took Auburn cornerback Nehemiah Pritchett. In the 6th round, at pick 179, they took Utah offensive guard Satoa Lamo. In the 6th round, at 192, they took Auburn cornerback DJ James. In the 6th round, at 207, they took Finlay offensive tackle Michael Jarrell. They also traded their 2nd round pick during the season for Leonard Williams. Favorite picks, Byron Murphy in round 1 and Christian Haynes in round 3. I was a big fan of Christian Haynes. I thought he could have went off the middle of round 2, like somewhere like pick 50. So for him to go at pick 81, I think it was great value, and it was one of my favorite picks as well. I think he's a immediate guy that can offer starting capabilities on the interior of the O-line. I thought Byron Murphy was in play at pick 8 for the Falcons, and I don't think it would have been a crazy reach there. I think, that penetrating, 3-tech, explosiveness from the interior is in high demand. So I think he really adds that element there to that Seahawks defensive line. My value picks, I have Haynes there again because, like I said, I thought he could have went off the board middle of round 2, but far and away their best value pick was DJ James. Again, everybody looks at things differently, but there were a lot of people who had DJ James in their top 100, which meant he would have been coming off the board somewhere middle to late round 3 for him to fall all the way to round 6. I understand the size concerns, but that's tremendous value. Even if he just becomes down the line, he's got a real shot to become their starting nickel corner, and they got him in the 6th round. That's great value there. So I like the top 2 picks of Murphy and Haynes. I love the DJ James pick. in between there, I wasn't a huge fan. My questionable moves were I didn't love Tyrese Knight in the 4th round. I didn't love A.J. Barner in the 4th round. I thought there were better values on the board than those guys. I do think A.J. Barner profiles very much to what Seattle seems to like from their tight ends. He's very much in the mold of, guys that they've had there before, Will Dissly and players like that. I do think there might be a little bit untapped upside with A.J. Barner, who just wasn't asked to do a lot receiving-wise at Michigan. So there it is, guys, the NFC West team by team. If I was ranking them, this would be my rankings. I'd have the Arizona Cardinals, to me, clearly sitting at the top in this rankings. I love what the Cardinals did. That trio of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey Benson and Max Melton, to me, are great. And if they have a clear, defined role for what they're going to use with Darius Robinson, I thought it was a great draft for the Cardinals. Number 2 is the Rams. I talked about, yes, I don't love the giving up the 2025 second-round pick, but I do really like Brandon Fisk, the player. You add that to Jared Verse. I think that adds a lot to their defensive line. Obviously, they lose out Aaron Donald, but they bring 2 guys in Verse and Fisk that, 1, they're really good players. 2, high-energy, high-effort guys, character guys. I really like what the Rams have done to rebuild that defensive line post-Aaron Donald. I have the 49ers at 3. We'll see. They don't have a lot of holes. So sometimes these guys, got to wait a little while to really see what their role is going to be on this in this team. And then to round it out is the Seahawks coming in 4th. But I do like what the Seahawks did. Like I said, I really like Murphy and Haynes, and I like DJ James. Have some questions about some of the things in the middle there I thought they could have done a little bit better on. But all in all, I thought all 4 teams drafted pretty solidly. Like, I don't have any gaping things. Most of the NFC, I feel like, a lot of years I see a lot of like holes and spots where I question the team's draft plan. The NFC East was really strong. The NFC West was really strong. I thought the NFC North was pretty solid. I thought the NFC South was collectively probably the weakest because there were question marks. It wasn't a clear top team, I thought. And there were questions even how I personally had them ranked. So that would kind of be the one team in the one division in the NFC that I had some question marks would be the NFC South. But overall, I thought what most of the NFC West teams really did help them out. So there it is, guys. Thoughts from every single team in the NFC West. Favorite picks, value picks, questionable picks, overview of the entire draft, things that I liked, things that surprised me. If you're enjoying these podcasts, please check out all our premium content. Get over to the website, SS Football, fastest and easiest way to get there. For $9.99, you get access to all our premium notebooks. They still offer a lot of value for you, even post-draft. Our rankings notebook, Dynasty Rookie Rankings, updated constantly. Soon, IDP Rookie Rankings. Once I finish these 8 recap pods, I will then turn my attention to the IDP landscape. I'll make IDP Rookie Rankings. I'll have a show about that. I'll bring a guest on from the industry, hopefully, to talk IDP Rookie Rankings as well. You get the Scouting Notebook, which has our detailed scouting reports on almost 100 offensive skill players, strengths, fundamental areas, developmental areas, how they win, NFL role, fantasy spin. And then you still get the Draft Projections Notebook. And even though the draft is come and gone, it's got notes on 400 prospects in there, how they win, snapshot of how they win, some developmental areas, really good tool, especially for maybe IDP landscape, to learn about these guys as well in terms of how they might transition to fantasy for IDP. So there it is, guys. Next up we'll turn our attention to the AFC. We'll start with the AFC East in the next pod. So on behalf of our sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us, and we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.